Are you ready?
This is From the Backline, a soccer podcast from Vancouver, covering the game at home and abroad. Here are your hosts, Mark Daly and Jorge Mendoza.
Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 287 of From the Backline. I never thought I was going to say these words again, but here we are. And joining me, as always, I wouldn't have it any other way, my friend and co-host, Mark Daly. Mark Daly,
dude,
where were we?
Dude, you're not going to do that thing like you just going to pick up like normal when we kind of walked away 6 years ago without explanation, and now we're just going to expect like everybody's cool with that. Like, you know, this is the podcast that nobody ever asked for, and we're back.
You know what? It's funny that I mentioned that. Two things about that. One is, yes, we stopped at episode 286 6 years ago on March 5th. So basically, it would have been last week.
Oh my
6
God.
years ago. And
Oh my God, really?
The following week. So it's almost like it was like a blip of 6 years that we just like stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that you said like nobody asked for. Like, I would love to say that we're back by popular demand, but no one in 6 years has ever said, you know what you guys should do? Like, you should bring the podcast back. No one has said that. So like, if by popular demand you mean like we saw each other and we said like, that was fun, we should do this again, and we're like, all right, then sure, by popular demand, here we are 6 years later.
Popular demand.
But dude, I miss this. I miss you because you're dead to me when we're not recording. Like we don't speak.
Fair. Yeah,
we don't speak. We like I hadn't seen you. I hadn't seen that you had a beer or anything like that. So like that's an interesting development.
But, indeed, it is.
But you know, dude, it's been 6 years. I guess let's do like a quick intro. Like, first of all, if you listen to this show for the 7 years that we did it before, and waited with, you know, holding your breath for 6 years, and you're back, thank you. And like, I don't know why
you can unhold your breath now.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're doing, waiting for us for 6 years. So thank you. If you have never listened to this podcast, because it's a new feed, first of all, and you're like, who are these clowns? What is it? Episode 287. Brief history in 60 seconds. Mark and I, we started a podcast called From the Backline back in 2013, which is like 13 years ago.
Crazy.
And we focus on the Whitecaps and in soccer in Vancouver, and we did that for 7 years. We did. Officially 286 episodes, but we also did some like off the canon episodes, if you will, especially during World Cup years, which in 2014 and 2018, we did some extra episodes. So it basically comes to like 300 episodes, you know, give or take, and then yes, for reasons. Different reasons. In March of 2020, the pandemic hit. We had other things. We stopped, and you know, we waited 6 years, as you do, and we decided to come back, and couldn't be more excited about it.
Well, that's it exactly. I mean, that really like sums it up nicely. But with the Whitecaps, dude, there's been some changes just like in our own lives, but you know, it's crazy, right? 286 episodes, like before we kind of temporarily hung things up. Does temporary apply to 6 years? Probably not.
Hey.
Like 6 months, maybe 6 years. But yeah, dude, like, I mean, it was like version 1.0 was an amazing run. And it's really cool to be able to sit down and do this again and see where it goes this time, because it's interesting how football's evolved in Vancouver, right? I mean, you know what's crazy with our own lives though, right? I mean, when we started, my oldest son, so 2013, he would have been 4.5 years old. So he's graduating from high school in a couple of months. He's taller than me.
That's
you know,
not
it's
right.
just like, I know, dude, it is just,
That's not right.
It blows my mind. The other things, like I've had some profound changes in my life and some exciting news. I'm proud to share this. So before the holidays, my wife and I, we had some meetings with our financial planner and stuff like that. So I'm pleased to report that my retirement's still on track. So if everything goes on, yep. So I'm on track to retire when I turn 148. So, I'm hoping that, we can maybe generate a little bit of income out of this. So maybe I could speed that up to 147. That would be a win. Yeah, that would be even better. But I mean, if it's as much fun with version 2 as it was for version 1, then, this should be good. This should be a lot of fun.
Unlike the first 300 episodes, I did a little bit of preparation.
All of them were classics. Before. They were all classics.
Hey, dude, out of 300 episodes, surely at least one was half decent.
Oh my God, I hope so.
But I did some preparation for this, and I have a list of.
Oh no, dude! Now you're setting expectations.
Changed. Oh no, expectations should remain low forever.
Oh, good.
I have a list of things that have happened in the last 6 years in to catch up people, right, with my life.
This feels like
care about.
Yeah, of course. But honestly, dude, like this feels like a segment you would hear or see on a late night talk show.
It's like an in memoriam, but okay. So here it was. In the last 6 years, from March of 2020 to March of 2026, I had a child.
Mm-hmm.
She's 2 now.
Crazy.
Got a dog. Biggest mistake of my life. I've had 5 different jobs.
Okay.
Full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I started into a sports broadcasting side career, which has been very interesting. We can talk about it at some point if you want. I got 3 tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess those are the biggest highlights in the last 6 years. A lot of stuff has happened.
Well, I can honestly say that, since version 1 went on a hiatus, the number of children that I have in my family is stabilized at 37. So that's good,
That's a good number.
That was, starting to get a little bit out of hand. So that's still the same. So I left my job in industry. I now work in post-secondary. So that's kind of interesting.
If you're in academia, the state of education in Canada.
Yeah, you know about that. It's kind of interesting because I thought there was like a whole process to keep people like me out of jobs like that. But
I would think so.
Hey, what do I know? I went to boot camp, so there was that. Again, I thought there was a whole system to keep people like me out of doing important jobs like that. But we live in strange times. What else? Also, we got a dog. Also, that was a big mistake, only because I love dogs. It just not the one that we have, which sounds cruel because
that's right.
my house just was never the same or as clean again. So there's that. But couple things happened, between then and now, and I'm just trying to think if there was anything else of interest that happened in the past 6 years. And honestly, I'm kind of drawing a blank because when you have 3 kids. Like we do, not me and you, but in our respective families, it's just like I cannot believe how busy my life has been running around after my sons and my daughter and my wife, who honestly is the glue of this family that holds it all together and puts up with way more crap than she needs to mostly from me and occasionally from one of the children, but mostly from me. Let's be fair. Having a family is awesome, but I never really anticipated it because I'm just kind of a naive and kind of ignorant person to begin with.
Yes, we know.
Let's just put it out there. Just how crazy things can get because all my kids are like in sports and extracurricular activities, and it's great going around to all the different things that they do. It's just some days you get home and it's just like, if I can sleep for the next 19 days, I'll be good. But then you realize you got to get up the next morning at 5:45 and do it all again with like the school drop off and band practices and taekwondo or this or that, whatever it is. It's all great, but it is just exhausting. So, these moments like this, sitting down and talking about the Whitecaps, for example, in all things soccer, if I remember our tagline correctly, was always a bit of a fun escape, right? And that's what we hope it will be again. And hopefully, and a little bit more frequent, like release schedule than once every 6 years. Because honestly, I don't think our listener would appreciate that.
He will improve it by 100%. It will be every 3 years, so then it'll be a great start.
It's already an improvement.
But that little factor that you did, that you said that your eldest son is going to finish high school, it just blew my mind, because when we started recording 13 years ago, as I mentioned, we used to do it at your house, and he used to fall asleep in a couch right outside of the bedroom.
That's right, right outside
the room, the room that we used to record in. And I guess he must have been like 5 or 6, and now he's which is insane, dude.
I know, it's crazy, man. It goes so fast. But there were some cool moments, like, the shows that we did with Marius Rovd and with Victor Blasco. Yeah. And another cool moment was, I remember one time going out when we used to go to Thunderbird for WFC2 matches.
We saw Alfonso Davis make his professional debut.
Exactly, and score his first professional goal.
We were in his first media scrum.
That's right.
We were there. That's my claim to fame. That's the best thing that I've ever done.
Alfonso's a rock star. He's awesome. Yeah. What else? Oh, I remember what I was going to say about that is, you remember Blas Perez?
How can I forget?
Yeah, how could I forget? He was the guy I loved to hate when he didn't play for the Whitecaps. I remember one time, I think he was coming back from an injury, and we went out to Thunderbird for a WFC2 match. And I remember I had to take Brockton along with me. And then, like, I can't remember where we were. We were either on the touchline or maybe in one of the media areas. And Blas was the chillest, coolest dude. And he was so good to my son. It's just like, I was so conflicted, because, like, you're Whitecaps player, so I support you, but I hated you, especially when you played for FC Dallas. Mm-hmm. But here I see you interacting with my son, and you're an awesome human being. It was a very neat moment. So it kind of like, I guess, you're just a totally different person off the pitch, and that was a cool moment. But, there's been some changes, I guess, with the Whitecaps, right? And I think so. First of all,
they're a powerhouse now, apparently.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, but I was like looking down the list of like all the places. So you talked about Fonzie. So, I mean, obviously he's gone on to become like an elite level footballer. But I'm just like looking at the names that we used to talk about. Pedro Morales, Kendall Waston, David Osted, Russell Tybert, Matias Laba, El Bicho. You've got an El Bicho's kid somewhere in the closet, right? Yeah. Jordan effing Harvey, Gershon Kofi. I mean, oh my God. Like, it was kind of like just going back through some of our old show notes, just kind of in preparation for this. And of course, did I mention Jay Demerit? Forgot about Jay Demerit. And I'm going to ask a question. So we started in 2013. That was 13 years ago. Are we like officially like allowed to talk about like the whole Camilo thing now? Are we allowed not to be bitter about that?
No, we should.
Or is it still too soon?
Bitter. Yeah, still too soon. Still too soon. It's only been 13 years.
Has he must have retired by now. Like I kind of like, I'll be honest, I kind of stopped following when he went to Liga MX. But I mean, he must have been retired or close to retirement now, right?
Yeah. So he played for Querétaro and Tijuana and Toluca, I believe.
I think it was Toluca. Yeah.
A quick question for you. Do you know how many players are left from the Vancouver Whitecaps 2020 roster today?
Head to Whole Foods Market for savings on zesty flavors. It's the Cocina Latina event with yellow sales signs throughout the store. Check out the meat department for marinated skirt steak with no antibiotics ever. And explore delicious weeknight shortcuts with a variety of 365 brand simmer sauces, rice and beans at wallet-happy prices. Liven things up in produce with fresh salsa and guacamole. Save during the Cocina Latina event at Whole Foods Market.
Gosh, can't be all that many.
There's only one, and it is Ranko Veselinovic.
Oh my God!
Which obviously he's currently injured.
Yeah,
like names from that roster 2026 ago. Maxime Crepeau, obviously now in Orlando City after he went to LFC, and then Portland, now in Orlando City. Ali Adnan, who was playing this. Sorry, remember Ali Adnan? Oh, what
interesting
experience!
play. What an interesting experience that was.
Derek Cornelius, obviously now in Europe and playing the World Cup coming up. Jared Nowinski, who's with our club. Andy Rose, who's not a coach. Russell Tybert, who's now working with the club, also retired. Michael Baldissimo, who plays for San Jose Earthquakes. Imbon Huang. Now that was a star that had a decent couple seasons with the Whitecaps, and now he plays for Red Star Belgrade.
Oh wow!
Jordi Reina, who's now with Alianza Lima down in his native Peru. Lucas Cavallini, who went back to Puebla in Mexico. But yeah, just Ranko Veselinovic, who's obviously, like I said, injured currently, and hopefully he'll come back soon.
That's amazing! Wow. This is kind of like a trip down memory lane. I was going to ask you about like one or two. Do you remember the whole Kenny Miller goal machine incident with the whole tattoo? Do you remember that thing? That was amazing. And that goal that he scored against England, I guess, was that for the 2014 World Cup qualifiers? And then he left the Whitecaps not too long thereafter. And he went back to Rangers, right?
Which would have been like Kenny Miller was a phenomenal striker. I think that he lacked service at the time.
Yes.
However, he left shortly after Pedro Morales arrived in Vancouver. And I think that if he would have stayed that season, 2014, he would have scored a bucket load of goals.
Yeah.
He would have been amazing.
I love Pedro. But even today, like I miss Pedro Morales.
And don't get me wrong, dude, like I think that we endure some dark times in the Vancouver Whitecaps tenure in MLS.
Absolutely.
And just having this podcast at the time was sort of like the light at the end of the tunnel every week after performances on the pitch were not there. But
there were many shows that we did where very much the glass is half full. When the reality was, completely opposite to that.
Yeah, it was tough. But dude, now it's the complete opposite. Like now the Vancouver Whitecaps are playing exciting football. They're and obviously last season was something to remember, and I think that it's going to be very difficult to ever match what this team did last season. But
except maybe win some more trophies. Winning's always good.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember hearing a crazy stat that the Vancouver Whitecaps last year, they played every single match that they could have played in all three competitions, with the exception of a third match in the first round of the playoffs against Dallas, because they wrapped up that series in 2 games. So
that's amazing.
All the games that they could have played in all competitions, they played them all because they reached the three finals in all 3. So it was an incredible run. Jesper Sørensen, an incredible coach that he came. And credit to the front office and Axel and everyone who brought Jasper.
Absolutely. Yep.
And now you have a city that is excited, and I think that a lot of our desire to bring this podcast back, even if it was just like self-serving, because we found ourselves talking about this team on a weekly basis because we were just excited to see what we're seeing.
Yeah. And it's funny, right? Because, we just rattled off a whole list of players that we obviously talked about on a weekly basis in version 1.0 of the show. And I was thinking about it when I was kind of putting those names down on digital paper, right? And I keep asking myself, apart from Alphonso Davies, how many of those guys make the starting 11, or they make the 18 in this current squad? I think that's a great question, because it's amazing how this club has evolved. And Yeah, right. And it's interesting because you look at like the list of silverware that they've won the last several years, the Cascadia Cups, the Voyageurs Cups, going far in the CCC, going to the final, going to MLS Cup, and all these different things that they've achieved. And it's really quite amazing because I think, it's a fair question to ask, like how committed were they to winning, like like when we were around in version 1, what was the commitment there, and they just weren't able to execute like that vision and bring it to reality? Was it just kind of lip service? I mean, but the obvious big thing was bringing Axel on board, right? And it just sort of took a couple of years for Axel to survey the situation, figure out the landscape, and make sure he's on the same page with ownership, with the amount of money that's available, and executing that vision. Because I think that desire was always there, because before MLS they had like a successful like history in lower leagues, and it just really took a while to, well, I mean, it basically took a decade to establish themselves. But I mean, Axel has been, I mean, let's just face it. I'm convinced that if Axel wasn't here, Thomas Mueller is not wearing a Whitecaps kit today. And probably most of the other guys that are in this side right now. And it's just, I feel obviously more convinced now with the message that comes out of the club, because I feel that, they're not trying to, kind of like write checks that they can't cash, so to speak. I feel that, that there's enough processes and enough people in place that, the club is in such a stable place, and maybe not so far as like the tenure where they're going to call home, but just within the club structure itself, if you know what I mean. That the right people are there and doing the jobs like on the operations side, and that's why we see such quality players. And it'll be interesting too, because I mean, obviously they just lost that CCC match against the Seattle Sounders just before we sat down this evening, but it was funny, and I was thinking to myself, how much things had changed, right? Because 5 years ago, I think if you go into a match and you're down 3-0 after the first leg, I think even before that first leg is over, we're probably as supporters thinking, okay, it's done. But the way that this club has evolved, I was thinking going into this match day, we're only 3-0 down, bring it on. I mean, obviously it did work out.
The last 2 games.
Well, exactly, right? I was just like, and this is an interesting place to be as a supporter, because, 10 years ago, it was just like, I hope we can survive the half. It's just like, I hope we can get out of this in one piece. But and so it's an interesting evolution point of view to have. Sorry to cut you off there.
Oh no, like I'm saying, like imagine like talking in 2014, 2015 to fathom the idea of playing the final of the Champions Cup. It's unthinkable.
Yeah.
Right. But just going back to what you were saying, I think that the willingness to win has always been there. But I think that it has been a process of setting up the right building blocks slowly, with the first one being obviously Axel, and then slowly starting to build a squad that would support a winning team. And then the final block, it feels, was to bring Jesper Sorensen on it. But I think that the quality of the squad that they currently have allows them to have this kind of success, right? And when you think about, they brought Kubas, right? And that was a phenomenal, a very smart signing. And they brought in Sebastian Berhalter, who had been discarded by a couple of teams before the Vancouver Whitecaps gave him this shot, and obviously has taken it to the next galaxy. So it's just time to bring all these players one by one slowly. And now another bringing someone who shares that vision and is able to get that message to players, and they're going out there and executing. So everything is finally clicking all at the same time.
And you know
I think
why?
that has been the main difference.
And you know why I think that is? I think it's agreement on the vision for what this club should be, right? And, that comes down from ownership through the executive level, obviously with Axel going down to the coaching staff and the players. If everybody's on the same page, and like you say, and I love how you use that, the term, the building blocks, because the building blocks are there. And it's amazing. I'm going to ask you another question now. Okay. Sebastian Berhalter, Kendall Waston, two obvious, very different players. But just bear with me for a second. Okay, number one, Kendall Waston was 15 feet tall and literally a mountain of a human being, but was very imposing on the pitch, but the nicest guy off of the pitch. But I feel like a lot of the same raw energy, that kind of that vibe, like especially during like MLS Cup and that cup run last year, Berhalter just like really intense and focused. And I kind of see some like similarities, the way that like the sort of the energy Sebastian gives off on the pitch, similar in the way that that Kendall would do as well. I mean, obviously they're two very, very different players. I mean, just the fact, like say Kendall's like 15 feet tall and, Sebastian isn't, but do you get where I'm going with just the energy that they project and kind of like the leadership? And, I mean, I just love I just like the way that Sebastian Berhalter plays, but I just love, especially during the playoffs last year, just the energy he was projecting, just the intensity. I feel, maybe it's just me, I felt like that was kind of like similar to Kendall.
Yes, I think that I would make that argument about Berhalter maybe 2 seasons ago, where like there was a similarity with Kendall, that sometimes like they were a little bit over exuberant.
Yes.
in their approach. And obviously Kendall at the time got punished because of his size, because he looked like way worse than what he did than what Berhalter did. But I think that Sebastian has been able to tone it down just the right amount to still have the intensity without having those like reckless and sometimes silly like tackles, and that would like sometimes cost him like some yellow cards. So 100%. I feel like I love the energy that he brings in. I don't know if this is a hot take. Maybe it's not. Maybe a lot of people feel this way. I would argue Sebastian Berhalter is the best midfielder in the roster today.
Agreed.
I'm talking about, and there's two designated players that play in the midfield, and I would argue that still Sebastian Berhalter is the best midfielder that the team has right now.
Yeah, I would not disagree with you on that. Yeah, I'm a fan. I just have to put that right out there.
And dude, like these results that are happening in the league, obviously the run in the Champions Cup is over as of now, which is I said like it was going to be very difficult to like be able to replicate what they did last year, and obviously that's not going to happen already. But still, like when you look at this, like the kind of football that they're playing in the league, they're the best team in the league. Like they're alongside LAFC, they're the only team that have won all 4 games, but the goal differential is insane. They have scored 14 goals. They have received only 1. They have a plus 13. LAFC is scored 8. Haven't conceded in 4 games, which is impressive in itself. But they have plus 8. And then in the Eastern Conference, like the closest one is New York City. They have 10 points. So I had a lot of questions coming into this season, for a couple of reasons. One is that I felt like last year the Whitecaps had a little bit of the element of surprise. I don't think that no one expected the Whitecaps to do and have the kind of performances that they did, and it might have taken the league by surprise. Like they didn't they didn't expect this, and I felt like that changed completely after the results that they had last season. They went to MLS Cup. They were so close to winning it. I mean, I still sometimes wake up screaming and like for that double post that didn't go in the final, because if that goes in, like it's over, right?
Changes the game, right?
So, but anyway, after all those great results that they had, I think that now they're a squad with expectations. Like people, like obviously the fans, but the league as a whole, the media as a whole, now they're expecting the Whitecaps to not only win, but to play well. And I think that as a club and as fans, that is not a position that we had ever been in. right?
No,
So I
no.
wondered if that was going to be a big weight on the shoulders of the players, but I would argue they're playing better than they did last year.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because you when you have that element of surprise, like nobody really, knows to kind of how to prepare for you, right? So now, like you say, they're no quantity because I'm just looking at the stats from last year. So if you look at the Western Conference, they finished second behind LAFC with 63 points. LAFC
That
68.
game against Dallas, man. That's that loss against Dallas towards the end of the home.
Yeah.
That's what. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
there was like no, that's fine. I mean, they finished LAFC finished the season with a 26-8 record, plus 24 goal differential. Whitecaps 18-7-9 and a plus 15 goal differential. And the thing that's interesting about that is that like you say, I mean, they're coming out now, and it's. How do I want to put this? They play an enjoyable brand of football, and they can win matches because they can win matches, and they can do it in an enjoyable style. I mean, 10 years ago is just like, we'll take the dub any way that it comes, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, points are points. Anything in the win column is a win. And I feel now, I wouldn't say that we're spoiled, but I think that, as a supporter, like I want to see my team go out there each and every week and have an identity and play to that style of football and play it to the best level that they can. And hopefully, that's going to translate to results on the pitch. So from that point of view, I'm obviously very satisfied because there's been a lot of things to cheer about in the last several years. And the thing where I feel like we're spoiled is that, compared to where we were, in the past, is that, the football is enjoyable for, and it has been for quite some time, is this that, like you say, there was some dark days in that initial building phase when they came into MLS, and they're a mature club. They're an established club, and they're one of the best teams in Major League Soccer. And it's crazy because I didn't actually get to watch the match against Minnesota live on the last weekend, but I watched it a couple hours after the fact, and I kind of had it running in the background. And I felt like every 3 minutes I had to run back to and rewind the stream, the feed, so I could just watch and see what happened again. And obviously there was a pile of goals, and like you say, they got this ridiculous goal differential now. And I just finally feel that, and I mean, obviously the results in the silverware back it up from the past couple of years. It's just like, the club has arrived, and it's just it's a satisfying place to be, because I feel that, for a long time, I wouldn't say I dreaded watching Whitecaps matches, but it wasn't my most favorite thing to do some weekends.
I wasn't looking forward to it.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to it, but now, I mean, it's very much okay. We got a match this weekend. We got a match whenever, and of course tonight's a disappointment. But, let's reframe it. I mean, they're still in several competitions, and the season is young. So now, you just move forward, and obviously they don't get a chance to challenge for that trophy this year, but now you can refocus efforts, and hopefully, that bears fruit somewhere else later on in the year. Hopefully by the time we get into the fall, we get to MLS Cup again, because that is obviously the big one domestically, right?
Yeah, the one that got away. But going
got
back
away.
to,
That's
oh God. Going back to what you were saying about the way in which the expectations have changed. And the position that this team has etched themselves into. I was having a chat with my friend Karen, who's a big Whitecaps fan. So shout out to Karen. And she has season tickets, and she was at the stadium on Saturday, and she was saying that it's like, it was something along the lines of like, there were almost too many goals. The first three we were very excited. After that, it was kind of like, yeah, it was not. Like we're like, again, we have seen this team struggle to score a goal for matches at a time, right? So it is an incredible turnaround. And going back to what you're saying about Seattle and having obviously lost the tie and being out of the competition. One of the things that impressed me the most about this team last season was the fact that they faced a lot of challenges along the way. And there were several stages of the season where I thought, okay, the run is over, season is over. And it started early, right? Since like Gold went down injured in March. And I was like, okay, well, without Gold, what are they going to do? So this is over. And they keep winning. And then a little further down, they made the Champions Cup final. And obviously they had a tough time in Mexico City, and they kind of capitulated a little bit, lost by a hefty result against Cruz Azul. And I said, okay, well, that's it. Like this, they're not going to be able to come back from this. But they regrouped, and obviously they did a push, and they went all the way. Then they had Veselinovic go down, and I was like, well, he's like the anchor of the central defense. Like there's no way that they're gonna come back to it, and they just kept winning, dude. So they just, if there's a word that I think defines this roster and this club right now, is grit. So I wonder if this is going to be the same case. Like they obviously had their first challenge this season, being eliminated by Seattle out of this tournament that they were hoping probably to win, as because of like what happened last year. But I wonder if this is just going to be just yet another of those situations where it almost makes them stronger. Like it's insane.
Absolutely. So I love how you picked the word grit. So I'm going to see your grit, and I'm going to raise you a unity. Okay, because so like I think there's two things going on there. The grit is obviously a big one, because that to me says that there's strength and there's perseverance in there. But also you got to add the unity, right? Because like you pointed out those several key like milestones in that season, right? And in years gone by, that maybe the season folds right there, it crumples, it falls down like a house of cards. But why I like the word grit and then pair it with unity is because they survived all of those moments that would that could be so psychologically damaging to a team, and they made it through. So that tells me two things. Number one, they're playing for the badge, and then just as important, or even more important, is they're playing for each other. So that they've bought into it. There's unity there, right? You got Jesper on the sideline as the coach, directing the whole show. But this just tells me that there's there's a bond with this group of players, that this adversity comes along and strikes them. And we've all been following this club and this sport for a long time, and sports, especially at the highest level, can be extremely cruel at times. So when you suffer setbacks like that they have, and still go on to succeed in spite of that, that really says something to me about like the character and the heart of not just the team but the entire organization, because it could so very easily go wrong, and they flipped the script on it, and we're still able to find success. And yeah, sure, they didn't win MLS Cup, but they gave Miami a good run for their money. And that just kind of seemed like, from a karma point of view, it just seemed like it just seemed like it was the whole Messi show, right? It just seemed that like if Messi was going to go to an MLS Cup final, it just needed to be one of those things that had to end where he would because it's not like he'd never won anything else in his career, right? But
they could have wanted to. Like that's the most frustrating part of it. Like,
right. I agree.
I'm more salty about MLS Cup than I am for the Champions Cup, because the Champions Cup, like they went and they capitulated, and it was they were Cruz Azul was better on the day.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
MLS Cup, completely different. Like the Whitecaps, and I think Thomas Muller said this at the end of the game. Like they should have won. They were the better team. They should have won that game. And I think that's the one that really grinds. So I was having a conversation with someone after MLS Cup, and I can't remember who it was, but they asked, "Do you think the Whitecaps would have won Champions Cup if Muller would have been in the team?"
That's a great question, right? Because, I mean, Thomas Muller is an extremely experienced player that's played on the biggest stages in the biggest matches that, we all as kids dreamed that one day if we didn't suck, and I'm specifically referencing myself here because
I know you play and it's disgraceful.
There we go. I was, it took 39 minutes, but there was the first reference, there. And it was, he's been there and done that in his career, both for club and for Germany, right? And that's a fascinating question. If he comes 6 months earlier, maybe we're having a different conversation about that final. It's hard to say. I mean, hindsight is 2020, but he definitely would have brought like a different perspective to that club. I mean, obviously he would never have played in a final like that, but I mean,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
right. Like that's the thing. I think that I don't know if they would have won it, but what I am sure of is that they wouldn't have lost 5-0.
Yeah.
I think that like with the work that they have done and the example and the leadership that he has, that is noticeable on the pitch.
Yes.
I don't think that they would have lost their head as they did on the day. Like maybe they wouldn't have won it, but they wouldn't have not lost 5-0.
Well, what Thomas would have brought to that match had he come sooner in that season. Obviously, he would have brought leadership, but number two, he would have brought perspective, because he would have found somewhere like a similar situation from his own career prior to Vancouver that he would be able to apply to that situation. And when you have a player like Thomas Muller, obviously he's going to command a lot of respect from his teammates when he walks into that dressing room for the first time, because he's Thomas freaking Muller. I mean, the guy's a legend, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden now he's not wearing that Bayern München shirt. He's wearing a Whitecap shirt. He's the guy wearing the same shirt that you are. He's on your team. And that's going to get people excited. And
he wears it a little better than I do.
Sorry?
He wears it a little better than I do.
Yeah, no comment, but but
that's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. Maybe they don't win that game, but I think that had he been there, like it would have changed them. But regardless, I think that was one of those like learning experiences, and maybe they're better for it, having gone through it without Thomas Muller, just to grow as a team as it was. Because who knows? I mean, obviously it didn't work out today. And can I just say, was that like not a weird place where they played that match tonight? It was like in the Costco parking lot in Spokane or something. It's just like, it was a bit of a weird like facility, like where they played, like, I mean, it was a nice stadium and all, but it wasn't exactly.
Was it a stadium though?
Yeah. Well, they played on something that was green. It could have been paints like on asphalt for all I know, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it just wasn't really BC Place or Lumen Field or somewhere like that. So it was a bit strange, but yeah. Anyways, I lost my train of thought, like as usual. So I'll toss it back to you.
I'm impressed that you lasted 42 minutes without like going off the rails as badly. But yeah, I mean, now what are we looking forward to? Like they're done the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Next up is San Jose. They're coming to Vancouver. And that should be an exciting one. Timo Werner has joined out of all the teams in the world, like San Jose Earthquakes. Timo, like, no offense to San Jose, maybe a little bit offense against San Jose, but so San Jose Earthquakes, that's not even the best team in California.
Yeah, so he's teaming up with Steven Lenhart and Wando
and Chris Wondolowski. Like he's following on the steps of Chris on the steps of Chris Wondolowski. Is that where his career has really taken him?
Yes, I guess so. Apparently,
I mean, exciting for us to watch him, but
yeah,
like I was shocked. Like I think it was more shocked to see Timo Werner signing for San Jose than I was of Thomas Muller coming to Vancouver.
Although I have to admit, it was a little bit kind of strange to see James Rodriguez with like a little bit kind of like it's interesting now, right? You know, like the players that are coming over to MLS, like it was just kind of like weird. I don't know, maybe I'm stuck in like 2014 to watch, you know, like I'm thinking of James from like a decade ago, but it's kind of it is kind of interesting the way that MLS is evolving, you know?
Well, you have James Rodriguez, you have Thomas Muller, you have Timo Werner, you have the goalkeeper in LFC, French, also Gold Cup winner. You have so many players that are coming to the league at such high level that in any other, and we have had discussions for 30 years, signings that with any other club would be incredible, right? But like sometimes because they're coming to MLS, like they're frowned upon on the other side of the Atlantic. But it's an embarrassment of riches, almost.
Yeah, it really is, right? You know, it's interesting because
Human Son. Also,
well, that's it, right? You know, it's kind of funny the way that they've evolved, that the entire league, and just the way that it's kind of changed. And you know, I must admit, like I'm glad that the matches are now included with the Apple TV. Like rather than like as a separate subscription, because I already subscribe to Apple TV, plus I subscribe to F1 TV Pro, plus I subscribe to a whole bunch of other like streaming services, and it's just like, oh my god, now I gotta pay for the add-on for MLS. So like it's interesting because I think they needed like a big media partner like Apple TV. I felt it was kind of like a lateral move because they got, like a lot of the matches got paywalled, right? And so you couldn't turn on TSN, for example, and watch, who would want to watch Toronto FC or Montreal? I mean, crazy people, right? I mean, and their fans are probably saying the same about us. But the point is...
should they, though? Because, there's the best team in the league, just saying.
That's true. But, there's always, rivalry between different clubs, which isn't a bad thing. But, yeah, I'm glad that's moved to where it's more accessible again, right? I mean, I'm still paying for Apple TV, but at least I'm not paying on top of that, which is nice. And, because I got Fubo as well, so I can watch, because, still like watching English Premier League. And so that's an expense. It just, it was getting a little bit too kind of crazy because then, of course, if you want to watch Champions League, you got to get DAZN and stuff like that. So I'm glad that MLS is in a better spot because, it just after a while, it's like I'm going to have to pick and choose, and maybe if they're crappy, I'm not going to want to keep investing in Apple TV to watch the Whitecaps. But they've given me money or reason to spend my hard-earned cash, so that's probably a good thing.
I'm just excited because MLS Season Pass allows me to watch all those Colorado versus Real Salt Lake and Charlotte versus Nashville that I have lost and have been able to watch for years.
Yeah, so forget about El Clasico. I mean, everybody really wants to see the Colorado Rapids playing.
I want to see
RSL,
Charlotte and Columbus. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So
but
like, I think that it's for years. I felt like, looking back on my own experience back in Mexico when I was growing up, like and more, like all the matches were basically on open, like free TV that you could just like pick up, right? So that allowed me to watch 80 to 90% of the matches on a weekly basis, right? And I watch all old matches, right? And I felt like the model of television here in Canada and with MLS and with any other major sport, realistically, with the local broadcasts and stuff like that, like it didn't allow you to do that, right? So I felt like one of the key differences that I always found between Liga MX fans and Premier League fans and other, like La Liga fans is that the fans not only watch their own team, they watch other matches from other teams, and that obviously builds audience and builds momentum, and and I felt like that was always something that lacked here in MLS because there was no access to it, and that's exactly what MLS Season Pass solves. I think like you can do, like I joke about like the Charles, but like if you want to watch any match, you can, and I think that's huge, right? And shout out to MLS Season Pass because I been working for them for like 3 years, and so. I'm
Don't
not
bite
paid
the hand.
I'm not paid to talk nice.
Oh, dude! Now we're gonna have to put like an asterisk on this that this episode may contain some paid content, but not really.
Not at all.
But it's a good point because like everybody probably doesn't know, but I'm a big Man United fan, and I've grown up being a Man United fan, so that's just as important to me to follow. But the one thing that has always been really good about the English Premier League is also, especially in the streaming era, is that you can watch all the other league matches that you want. There's really solid like highlight packages available, so if you don't want to sit down and watch the other 8 matches that were played on a Saturday or Sunday, you can sit down and watch an extended highlight package that goes on for like an hour. And that's honestly what MLS needs, right? Because people are going to talk about like the stars, like everybody knows, because Lionel Messi is a household name, right? So people may want, he should have been at one point in his career. I mean, he kind of won a few things along the way and kind of had a pretty decent career. But the point, they tell me you support Real Madrid without saying you support Real Madrid. Anyways, moving on. But yeah, no, it's cool now because that's the one thing that I think that MLS was obviously missing, kind of like before the Apple TV deal, was just having a comprehensive good package to put it together. And like I say, I'm just glad it's more accessible now, and I can stream matches to my heart's content if I can find the time, which is sometimes a little bit challenging, but it's there, and that's the important thing.
Oh man. Okay. Mark Daly, I think that we should leave this episode 287 of From the Backline here. Once again, I think that want to thank if you listened for the first 7 years of the show 6 years ago, and you're back. Thank you so much. Welcome back. If you're listening for the first time and you're still 50 minutes in, kudos to you, and I don't know
Good
why.
For you.
You're
a trooper.
I don't know what you're doing with your life. But yeah. So this is the vibe of the show. Really, we in the previous iteration of the show, we had like you mentioned, we had guests and players and coaches, and that will intend to try to do once more. And we're just gonna sit here, and we're a couple of knuckleheads who like the sport, and just two friends and talk about it, and talk about the Whitecaps and soccer in Vancouver and soccer in general. And I have a couple of things that next episode I'm gonna bring up, because over the last 6 years there's some information has come to light that I need to have a conversation with you about. But we'll leave that for next episode.
Oh my God! Now I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous.
You should.
Oh
be.
dear.
But yeah. So you're gonna dismount this, Mark Daly?
No, do I? Okay, because this is really awkward because I know none of our socials anymore. And now just with your previous statement, I'm wondering if I should be calling my lawyer, just to, I think some of these, these things should be vetted, or at least I should have some advice as to whether or not I should comment on them or not. But anyways, folks, thank you for listening to the show. This has been a long, long time coming, and this didn't disappoint for us. You guys might have a bit of a different opinion. So anyways, we'll leave it there. Thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful week. We will obviously be watching the Whitecaps take on San Jose this week, and then we'll be back next week to talk about that and a whole lot more. So until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.